They never hunted you because you were weak. They hunted you because you were strong. The world has tried to convince you otherwise. They lied to you, broke you down, and filled your mind with doubts, not because you were insignificant, but because deep down they knew the truth. You are chosen. You've felt the weight, betrayals that cut deep, losses that made no sense, chaos right before your breakthrough. That wasn't random. It was all strategy. Hell doesn't waste energy on the average. It fears the awakened. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1-5. You were marked before you took your first breath. Your spirit carries a power that can't be bought, taught, or copied. And that terrifies them. That's why they whisper lies in your quietest moments. That's why you've been isolated, tested, pushed to the edge. Not because you're cursed, but because you're dangerous to the systems that feed on control. Every distraction, every toxic loop, every moment of self-doubt, it's been designed to keep you from rising. Because the moment a chosen one stands in their truth, the enemy loses all control. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1-5. You carry that light. Even when you feel invisible, they see it. Even when you feel empty, your presence shakes the room. That's why they fight so hard to make you forget who you are. But now, it's time to remember. This is not just another video. This is your wake-up call. If you feel this message in your bones, like your soul is stirring, you're not alone. Drop amen in the comments if you're ready to reclaim what was always yours. Like, share, subscribe. Not just for you, but for every chosen one who's still trapped in silence. Let the chains break. Let the truth rise. Let's begin. They knew who you were before you ever had a chance to remember. The greatest deception of darkness was never to destroy the chosen. It was to make them forget who they are. Long before you began questioning why life felt heavier for you, why love cut deeper, or why you could never seem to fit in, they already recognized the light inside you. You were marked, set apart, watched, because even in your innocence, you were a threat. For many are called, but few are chosen. Matthew 22:14. The moment your soul entered this world, heaven took notice, and so did the enemy. They whispered fear into your dreams before you could even speak. They built obstacles before your first step. They turned hearts against you not because you were weak, but because your presence disrupted their illusion of control. The truth is, you were born a weapon of light in a world addicted to shadows. Think about it. Have you noticed how the ones with the deepest empathy, the sharpest intuition, and the strongest faith always seem to suffer most? The brightest flames always draw the most wind. It's not punishment, it's refinement. But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I shall come forth as gold. Job 23:10. Your trials were never proof of your failure. They were proof of your calling. Gold only shines after fire. Diamonds are only born under pressure. Prophets are only shaped through isolation. The world has always feared divine strength wrapped in human skin. They feared Joseph's dreams, David's heart, Esther's courage. They fear you for the same reason, because your awakening exposes the deception around you. And now, you're beginning to see it. Every betrayal, every heartbreak, every closed door, it wasn't to destroy you. It was to remind you who you are without the noise. Because once you remember, they lose control. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. Isaiah 9:2. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to break patterns, challenge systems, and carry light where no one else dares to go. They tried to bury you, but they didn't realize you were a seed. And now, it's harvest season. You weren't taught your power. You were born with it. A lion doesn't need permission to roar, and the chosen don't need validation to rise. What lives in you wasn't earned, copied, or borrowed. It was woven into your being by the Creator himself. Before you ever spoke a word, Before the world ever touched you, heaven had already marked you. For the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable. Romans 11:29. That's what they can't stand. They try to manufacture what you carry naturally. They mimic your energy, adopt your style, echo your voice, but no matter how hard they try, it never rings true. Because your essence isn't learned, it's eternal. This is why they've tried to silence you, gaslight you, make you shrink. Not because they truly believe you're nothing, but because deep down, they know you're everything they can never be. Have you noticed how people are drawn to you? How they feed off your peace, your strength, your insight, and then suddenly turn cold when they realize they can't control it? They didn't love you. They loved your light. And when they couldn't cage it, they tried to crush it, but it never worked, and it never will. What they called stubbornness is sacred resilience. The fire inside you refuses to go out because it wasn't lit by man, it was lit by purpose. He who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. 1 John 4:4. You've been under attack not because you're weak, but because you're a threat. You don't fit into their formulas, their boxes, their expectations, and that's the point. You were never meant to. The world has tried everything to distract you, to derail you, to make you doubt what was already placed inside you. But how long will you keep handing them that power? Every time you hesitate, every time you question the fire in your bones, they win. And you weren't chosen to lose. This world doesn't need another imitation. It needs you unfiltered, undeniable, and unafraid. So stop running, stand up. The moment you own your power, the world will have no choice but to honor it. They cannot have what's inside you, so they try to control it. When the enemy can't possess the fire, they aim to extinguish it. They've tried everything, copying your essence, draining your energy, mocking your spirit. But no matter how many times they circle back, one truth remains. You are not replicable. What's been placed inside you wasn't learned. It was assigned, divine, untouchable. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. They knew your potential before you did. That's why the war started early, before you even knew your own name. But when they realized they couldn't take your gifts, they went for the next best tactic, convincing you to give them away. They come softly now, not with chains but with distractions, with false friends, with carefully placed voices meant to wear you down so that when your moment comes, you're too drained to rise. History repeats itself. The powerful are always targeted before they awaken. Elijah was hunted in isolation. Jeremiah was called a liar by his own people. Deborah led in a world that silenced women. The chosen have always been opposed before they stepped fully into their role, because the longer you live in your power, the harder it becomes to contain you. So they send users, manipulators, energy thieves, people who smile as they drain you, people who love your light until it shines too bright for them to control. But ask yourself, how many times have you surrendered your worth just to keep the peace? How often have you held back your truth so others wouldn't feel small? They created a system designed to shrink you, a world that teaches obedience, not wisdom, that rewards conformity, not vision, that fears those who are unshakable, divinely connected, and spiritually whole. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to break the mold. And once you stop explaining, stop apologizing, stop letting fear write your story, they lose. They cannot access what flows through you. And once you reclaim it, they'll have no choice but to witness the rise they tried to prevent. The war you're in is invisible, but the wounds are real. You weren't born into peace. You were born into a battlefield where spirits clash, and truth is the first casualty. This war isn't fought with weapons. It's fought in silence, in the shadows of your thoughts, in the quiet unraveling of your confidence, in the whisper that says, "You're not enough." For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. Ephesians 6:12. They told you your pain was just bad luck, that your betrayal was coincidence, that your fatigue was burnout. But that's the lie. The truth is this: you've been under attack from the moment you were marked as chosen. And the enemy? It doesn't need to kill your body. It only needs to silence your spirit. That's why the attacks come wrapped in familiarity, friends turning into enemies, opportunities disappearing just as you're about to break through, toxic love disguised as fate. It's never random, it's calculated, because nothing disarms a chosen one faster than heartbreak, exhaustion, and doubt. The enemy knows if it can keep you distracted, it can keep you small. That's why the betrayal cuts so deep, why the same patterns repeat, why you feel a kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. You're not just physically worn, you're spiritually drained. That's not weakness, that's warfare. Job lost everything but held onto his faith. David was hunted long before he wore a crown. Even Jesus was betrayed with a kiss. If the greats were tested through pain, isolation, and loss, why would your path be any easier? The depth of your trial only reveals the weight of your calling. But here's what they never saw coming. You survived. Every time they thought they broke you, you rose. Every time you were counted out, you kept going. That's what shakes the darkness. Not your perfection, but your refusal to stay down. So what now? Will you keep giving power to fear, or will you wake up to the truth? This is war, and you were built to win. The moment you stop seeing yourself as cursed and start seeing your scars as proof, you become unbreakable. And that's exactly what they fear most. And when the battle quiets down, you find yourself alone, not in defeat, but in reflection. You feel alone not because something is wrong with you, but because you were set apart. The eagle does not fly in flocks. The higher it rises, the lonelier the sky becomes. And so it is with you. From a young age, you felt it, like you didn't quite belong, like you were always standing on the outside. Even when surrounded by people, you tried to fit in, tried to shrink yourself, to blend into spaces that could never contain your spirit. But no matter how hard you tried, solitude kept finding you. That's not rejection, that's refinement. The Lord called me from the womb. From the body of my mother he named my name. Isaiah 49:1. Elevation always requires separation. You cannot soar while clinging to what's beneath you. The calling on your life demands more clarity, more strength, more surrender. And that often means walking alone. Look around. Where are the ones who started with you? The ones who said they'd always be there? Gone. Not because you failed, but because your path outgrew their reach. The truth is, not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Some were only meant to walk with you until the road got steep. Can two walk together unless they are agreed? Amos 3:3. You've been pushed into wilderness seasons not to punish you, but to prepare you. Moses faced the desert before he led nations. Elijah hid in caves before fire fell from heaven. Even Jesus withdrew alone before he stepped into power. You're not being abandoned. You're being anointed. Yes, it hurts. Yes, there were nights you begged for just one person to understand. But sometimes, God removes what's familiar to protect what's sacred. You don't need crowds to validate your calling. What's on your life is too heavy for shallow relationships and surface-level loyalty. And the right people, the ones who match your mission,